All right, this is solving systems of equations by substitution, video number 2. In the last video, there was one variable already solved for. So there's one variable already isolated. In these examples, you're going to have to isolate one. Now, let me warn you, there are easier ways than others. So some variables are going to be easier to isolate than the others. So if I were you, I'd pick the easy ones to make your life easier. Don't make your life harder than it needs to be. Okay? Now, what we're going to look for is variables that do not have a coefficient. A coefficient is a number before the letter. Okay, so this x has this -4, so it's probably not the best variable to choose. Now, this y is by itself, so this one's pretty easy to get by itself. If you look at your other equation, this x has a -5. It's not impossible to isolate it, it's just a little bit harder. And this y has that negative connected to it. Again, not impossible, just a little harder. So of your 4 variables that you can pick to isolate, it's your choice. It does not matter which one you do. You're going to get the same answer either way. But because we have the ability to choose from 4 different variables, I would just choose the easiest one, which happens to be this y in our first equation because it does not have any coefficients. So I would choose that one. If we are solving for y, that means this -4x is in the way. Let's get rid of it. Opposite of -4x is +4x. If you do it to the left, you have to do it on the right to keep everything nice and balanced. You're going to be left with y equals, remember you cannot combine these, they're not like terms, so you have y equals 4x plus 6. Now, y is by itself, which is beautiful. That means another value, another representation for y is 4x plus 6. So you're going to take that and you're going to plug it in way up here. Okay, you are going to replace your y. Now, you have -5x minus. Be careful with this minus sign. Okay, you have to put in parentheses for this 4x plus 6 because this negative has to change the value of both things inside. If you don't include the parentheses, you're going to get a weird answer, okay? And keep the 21 just like it used to be. Now, we need to distribute this negative. If you're having a hard time figuring out what a negative, just put this 1. Remember, there is that -1. It's that sneaky 1. We just don't really write it. Now, you have -5x. Distribute this -1, and you're going to see that it's going to change both terms. -1 times 4x is -4x. -1 times 6 is -6 equals 21. Let's combine like terms on the left. You have -5x minus 4x, which is going to give you -9x. Minus 6 equals 21. We're solving for our letter, our variable. So, well, the -9 is in the way, but so is the -6. Quite frankly, you're going to move this one first. It's easier. So opposite of -6 is +6. So go ahead and add 6 to both sides. You're going to have -9x equals, 21 plus 6, which is 27. The -9 and the x are being multiplied. The opposite of multiplication is division. Cross those out. You have x equals 27 divided by -9 happens to be -3. That is half of your problem. Now you need to go find out what y equals. You can use your original equation that said -4x plus y equals 6, or you could just use the one that's already solved for y. Make your life easier. Use this one. I know my value. Here, I'm just going to rewrite it so it's better. Y equals 4x plus 6. Now, we know that x has a value of -3. So take this -3 and substitute it, plug it in for that x. Y equals 4 times -3 plus 6. Okay, order of operations, you got to multiply first. 4 times -3 is -12. And then you're going to keep that plus 6. We haven't used it yet, so just bring it on down. Y equals -12 plus 6. Combine those, and you're going to get y equals -6. As a coordinate pair, your answer will be, grab your x of -3, grab your y of -6. Okay, so these are problems that take like one extra step, not impossible, you just have to do some rearranging. Let's practice one more. Let's do -5x plus y equals -3, and then the other one is 3x minus 8y equals 24. Now again, you can pick what variable you choose to isolate, okay? That x has a coefficient, that does not. This has a coefficient, that has a coefficient. So again, we're gonna isolate that first y. In order to isolate this y, you need to get rid of the -5x, so add it to both sides. Y equals 5x minus 3. Now, you know a new name for your y. So you're going to take this and you're going to plug it in to the second equation for that y. So 3x minus 8 multiplied by 5x minus 3 equals 24. Now distribute. You have 3x minus 40x, because -8 times 5x is -40x. -8 times -3, be careful with your signs, that's going to be positive 24, equals 24. Let's combine like terms over here. 3x minus 40x is going to be -37x plus 24 equals 24. Now we're solving for our x, so get rid of this 24, and you're going to notice they're actually going to cancel out in both. So that means you have 37x equals nothing. It just equals 0. When you divide by -37, your answer is just going to be 0. Okay. Now let's go figure out what y equals. Bring down this equation. Y equals 5x minus 3. Grab this x value. Y equals 5 times 0 minus 3. That's going to cancel out to nothing. You can just cross it out, because anything times 0 is 0. Then you have y equals -3. So in coordinate form, your answer is going to be 0, -3. That is the intersection point. Okay? I think that's it for now. I would just make sure that you pick the variable that's easiest to solve for. Oh, you know what? Let's do one more. Let's do one more example. I'm going to set it up for you. If you have something like this, you're going to notice that every single term, sorry, it barely fits. Every single term has a coefficient. So that has a coefficient, that one has a coefficient, that has a coefficient, and that has a coefficient. So in order to go about this one, still try to find the easiest one. If you pick on this one, you're going to have to divide by 7s. 8 over 7 is not going to simplify to anything nice, so that's probably not a good idea. If you pick this one, you're going to have to divide by 8. Again, if you divide by 8, -7 divided by 8, that's not nice either. But take a look at this one. If you pick on this x, you need to divide by -2. Notice that that coefficient and that number are even. So you're going to be left with no fractions. I would pick this x to focus on right there. Because if you pick that x, you're going to have nice whole numbers as opposed to fractions. Now, fractions aren't the end of the world. You could choose the fractions over here. It's just not going to be as simple, but you're still going to get the same answer. So let's do this one really quickly. I'm going to isolate this x right here. So let's get rid of the 6y first. You're going to have -2x equals -6y plus 6. Now this x is not by itself yet, so I need to divide by -2. I need to do this to every single term. Remember, those go away, cross them out. X equals -6 divided by -2 is 3y, and then -6 divided by -2, remember, careful with your signs here. That's going to be a -3. Now you have x by itself. So you know another representation for x. Grab that other representation, plug it into your second equation. I'm not going to solve it all the way on this one because I think from here you guys know what to do. Sometimes, I just wanted to show you that sometimes all 4 variables are going to have a coefficient, so pick the easiest one. The easiest one in this case was this 2, because when I divided it, they all went down to nice whole numbers. So from here, you would just take this value, plug it in there, solve for your y, and then go back and solve for your x, which I think you guys know how to do that part. It's just solving for one of the variables. Try to pick the easiest way possible.